and welcome to Local Control Subcommittee meeting of this Monday, August 19, 2024. Calling this meeting to order at 5:04. Roll call. Devin Sheehan,
Present.
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Dr. Rivera Colon here, and Gloria Caballero. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag, United States of America, Republic of God, rock.
Just some housekeeping. On March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill which, among other things, extends the temporary provisions pertaining to open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. The language does not make any substantive changes to the open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, I'm hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. Okay. This is it. We have made it to our final scheduled meeting for making what we're now calling the Holyoke School Committee Capacity Building Plan. I am, again, before we start, thank you everybody who has been involved in the process. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Jennifer, for working with us closely in order to make this plan fruition. And thanks to all of our school committee members who took the time to look over our last draft and make their recommendations in order to move forward with our plan. So our first item of today is review of the draft plan. And for that, I have a very short, a few slides that I want to share with all of you so that you have the opportunity to see what were the updates that have been made since our last version of this plan. So, summary of the updates. Proposed changes were discussed during our school committee retreat. Officially changed the name to Capacity Building for the Holyoke School Committee of the plan. Addition of school committee legal counsel as part of the plan. Selection of policies priorities, which we looked over also the policies as well for Section B, board governance and operations, and Section H, negotiations. And adjust the budget calendar to align with the district's updated calendar to make sure that for our projections that what we have in place actually matches what the plans are for the district. One of the things that we were kind of like grounding ourselves was in our standards and indicators for school committee, which are available for the public, but I took the excerpt here so that everybody could see. Establishing a culture of collaboration, ensuring that members develop and sustain a collaborative working relationship with each other and with the superintendent, actively creates opportunities to engage stakeholders in working together to improve student outcomes, promotes positive working relationships between district and municipal leaders, provides opportunities for students to share meaningful input into policies and decision making as appropriate. So one of the parts of our capacity building plan is the creation of the community advisory team. This community advisory team will operate under the Holyoke School Committee's direction, and the Holyoke School Committee will establish the team's goals and timeline, including specific checkpoints for updates and approvals. So that means that this is going to be serving the needs of the school committee in terms of how to solicit public input and how is it that we're going to be working together in order to make those decisions in the future. One example that is part of our plan is upon notification of DESI of a decision to exit the state of receivership, before deciding the superintendent process, the school committee could establish the advisory team to support the development of competencies the community would like to see in the next superintendent of the district. So this is a clear example where we could use the development of this community advisory team in order to help us inform this process. Those were the big updates. So now I want to open the floor for the members of the committee for any questions. Also would like to recognize as present here with us, receiver Mr. Soto, Vice Chair Mildred Lafave, Committee Member Ellie Wilson, and Committee Member oh my God, I'm like blanking on the names today. What's not enough coffee in this day? Mr. Wellihan and Mr. Collimore. So thank you so much for being here. And I would also like to welcome our new member of the team for our administrative assistant for the school committee, Irene Feliciano. So thank you all for being here. Mr. Sheehan, you have the floor.
Yes, so in the updates on the slides that were there, has that been changed in the draft plan yet? Okay.
They have also been seen by our DESI team as well.
So, am I looking at the wrong link? There's only one. Correct.
Do you see something missing?
Well, the budget calendar just looks the same. That's why I was.
I know that the changes were not major, but it should be.
That's fine, as long as it's changed. It just looks the same to me, but as long
Okay.
as it's verified.
Yeah, and I can go back and check again and make sure that I have the budget for it from 810 in front of me, so I can make sure that if it hasn't been changed, that it will be changed.
And then just one question.
Yes.
It's probably it could be for Commissioner Johnson on this. But I think okay. Is that better? Okay. Just with and I know we're already in August, so we're going to be a little behind, but I know we know that. For the assigns representatives to observe collective bargaining negotiations. And that's also something that came up at the school committee retreat, like what that looks like. And I guess I don't want to assume, but just from your office, does that look like what the committee wants it to look like? And I say that some school committees choose to just have legal counsel at the table and receive updates regarding collective bargaining. Some committees choose to actually have committee members serve on negotiating teams, and it's done. There's no one size fits all for how school committees function. Is that something you're open to, or is this saying that you want members of the Holyoke School Committee sitting at the negotiating table, or at least observing at the negotiating table, or can that be kind of worked out to how the committee moves themselves forward? It's just something that came up at our retreat, and we want to capacity plan appropriately for that.
Commissioner Johnston, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Yeah, the plan is meant to be adaptive, and something that you work with to make sense for what you need to do. I think it's important with this particular piece to remember, for us all to be guided by the idea that there hasn't been involvement of school committee in negotiations for many years now. This is about capacity building, particularly during this upcoming school year, and it's so timely and relevant that you have negotiations with the educators union kicking off right away, or during the school year. And so I think getting close, to me, it makes sense to have you close to the action, to have you being able to observe in some way, and either through some further subcommittee that exists related to this, or if there's work to be done directly at the table. But I think that so again, my bottom line is we can work out the details, but we have to be guided by the idea that this is about building up the capacity, and I think maybe for the school committee and the receiver during this year to be thinking about what does that future look like, just like you're saying, Mr. Sheehan. What will the future role of the school committee be? Because like you said, there are many different ways that it occurs throughout the Commonwealth. And so looking ahead to say this is how we want to be engaged would then help to define what do you need to do in this upcoming year. And I think that there's room for figuring that out.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing that we were talking about in the process for our community advisory team and thinking about how we're going to move forward in terms of like the example that we had, which is putting together the competencies that we want to see in our next superintendent. In order for us as a school committee to be able to do that work and do it well and make sure that it is an authentic process where voices are heard, we are going to need more help, right? Like in the sense of if we're going to have, for example, an outside vendor who's going to come and compile all the feedback that we get from our meetings, because one of the things that we were talking about was making sure that we're doing this as the school committee and not using any other resources that might be the districts. So in order for us to do that, we would need someone who is good at facilitating conversations and being able to gather the data so that we can make meaningful change as we move forward. Is that something, and this question now is for Commissioner Johnston, is this something that we would get support for? Because obviously that's something that is not part of the budget, but is something that we would need moving forward. So could you speak to that? Thank you.
And again, thinking about this is something that communities face when they need to make that decision, as political we need to around the superintendency. And so this would be the type of thing that, frankly, that my team would be talking about with Receiver Soto's team to make that determination. By and large, when this happens just across the state, even though I recognize what you're saying, that it is an expense, and it's an expense that's maybe not initially budgeted for, there's often room in the budget to find the amount of money that it would take to cover the cost of a vendor. And we continue to work closely with Receiver Soto on all things related to the budget. And so I think what we'd want to do is just have a follow-up discussion to determine, is this something that the district can absorb? And if not, then would we need to look for support from the state? But that's actually how we operate all along. This wouldn't be new or different. And it would just be a continuation of the type of collaboration that we have with Receiver Soto to determine how to meet the needs of the school district.
Thank you so much. Mayor Garcia.
Yeah, I was just gonna thank you, Commissioner, for clarifying. As far as when we're in control, the district's budget is our budget, and we'll get to work with the superintendent. Well, it wouldn't be called the receiver anymore; it'd be the superintendent find money in the budget, do what we need to do for procurement, get the contract in orders. Funds come through here, we get to vote on the transfer of the funds. So, that should take care of that. As far as the decision, and obviously, we're gonna work with, ideally, an advisory committee and get feedback into those four, I guess you're calling them pathways to local control. We'll solicit that feedback, but just understand that the democratic process, we were all here duly elected by the people, and that decision does fall with this body. So that's still a conversation this body still hasn't had, to actually come to a decision to determine what direction we want to go as far as the superintendent position is concerned. Do we want to do a search? Great, we need to vote on that. Do we want to start a contract with the one we have and identify clear reasons why we want to move in that direction? Great, we need to vote on. So that's not a Josh Garcia mayor decision. That's a school board decision, duly elected by the people of Holyoke.
Thank you so much. And that's also like part of that bigger conversation, right? Because there's multiple ways that we could go about that. For example, if we were to use the community advisory board to put together what are those competencies that our next superintendent would have, and then we find that we already have those competencies met, right? That's a way where we're thinking about, okay, so we will move forward with whether it's an appointment or whatever it would be called, because we have those needs met. And that would be another way of using community feedback and that kind of thing. But I would want to also talk about that is not the work of this committee. That is part of a bigger conversation with the full school committee. And even though that's something that I know for us and for the community in general is something that people are dying to know how we're going to move forward, that's all we're here to discuss is how the plan is going to go, so that then we can move to implementation. And at that point, then we will have to start talking about what that conversation is going to be about. Mr. Sheehan.
I think what's also important too, just on what you said, so people understand that haven't read this document or that are questioning it, is the whole talk of who's going to lead this district can't even, following the plan, it says the school committee engages in that conversation once we're notified by the state that receivership is ending. So it's not even a decision that we can't make that decision until we're told that this is occurring. So it could be tomorrow, it could be like, you just don't know. So that's one of the other things with it, that's how it's stated in the plan, is that it's upon notification, then we'll make that decision. I think that's just important for.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is correct. It's not like we have a date or a process to get there right now, but it is, as is stated in the plan, is upon notice of exiting. Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, discussion? So I have one question, and I know that this is going to be for Commissioner Johnston. And I know that it's early to tell because we're just talking about the plan. But as we're moving forward, okay, like let's say that everything goes according to plan and everything is voted and everything goes forward, are we still going to have, and I'm sure, I mean, I think I know what the answer is going to be. But we're going to need, obviously, support with implementation of the plan. Like, that's, once you have a plan, like, that's the next step. So could you tell us a little bit more about how you envision that process moving forward?
Yeah, what I appreciate about the plan is that so much of it is actually directly under your control, the auspices of the school committee to really take on these new responsibilities during this upcoming school year. And so I hope that a lot of it actually is work that the school committee can do and continue to work with MASC, for example, your chosen partner in this work, to work on any additional training or consultation or support. And I think the good news is that that's really what's brought us here is you've invested so much in your own development already, that you have so much strength to build upon. And I think if there are specific areas where the school committee needs additional support, I'm really glad to hear you report that, my colleagues, Lauren and Jennifer, have been of assistance. And I think they would be the main conduit for you to go to say, either is there something that Jennifer and Lauren can continue to provide, or is there something else beyond, the strength of this body, the strength of MASC as a support organization, the strength of the relationships that you have forged and formed with my colleagues at DESE and even myself. I think those are the main conduits. And then if there's anything still lacking, we'd be open to having a conversation about what else and what more would need to be done. But I don't look at this plan and say, this automatically leads us to having to find another vendor to come in and support the implementation of this. I think that this committee has done so much to be self-guided, to, lay down the framework for this, that I see this as a way that they'll continue to build on it using the supports that I've already named.
Thank you so much. Other questions or discussion before we move to item 2? Because we only got 2 items. Agenda.
Say this as a living process.
hold on.
I'm sorry. My
Dr. Gloria
apologies.
Caballero.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm coming from work. Left at 5. No, thank you so much again, Commissioner, and your supportive secretary, Chief of Staff, I should have said. I see this as an opportunity to keep working together. It's a living document. It's a living agenda. We should not assume that once it's passed, that's all. It's not all and be done. I think we still need more input from all the stakeholders, and it's going to be something that is not going to end once the transition occurs, but this is something that we will continue, building on with the rest of the schools and the parents and the students and everybody, the government of the city, so that we can have a school district that is strong and that is reliable, and that things are done in a manner that really represents what we're really trying to accomplish here in Holyoke, which is total control, seriousness, things that are reliable and doable, and that really represent who we are here in Holyoke, people who really want to move the city forward. Together we can, yes?
Thank you so much. One thing that I want for anybody who's watching and listening to this is for everybody to understand that based on democracy, right? Like, we are elected officials, we're here to do our jobs, and we are on our way to do just that, right? That's what it means to regain local control. But one thing that we're gonna have as an advantage is that I don't know how many other committees would be as prepared to assume their roles as we will be, because many of us have taken many of these trainings before, even without being able to specifically do all the things that we were elected to do. And now we get to go above and beyond. We have gotten the training that everybody gets, and then we'll get special training for us to show that we are ready to gain local control. So I just want for our community to know that we would be more than ready to be able to do this job and to do it well. So I just wanted to say that also. Mr. Sheehan.
So I guess as we leave here today, and I say that as we're gonna have the other meeting after this, and but as we leave here today, what does progress monitoring look like from ESE and from your office? What regular check-ins should the committee be scheduling with your office to learn about that? And I guess we envision, we've talked a little bit, I think we talked about it at our last meeting here, and we talked about it very briefly at our retreat, that there's some of these work streams are going to be monitored by members and the committees that we have established, and they'll be reporting back. But what does that communication look like from us to you, but more importantly, what does that communication look like from your office to us as far as progress monitoring?
Great question, and one that I wanted to make sure that we got to tonight as well, because I really appreciated the comment that this is a living document, and this is something that we have to really. This is work of exercise, right? Building the strength to get building more strength together, right? There's already strength among this committee, and now we want to just really accelerate towards exiting. And so what I'm imagining is that, again, a strength is that this subcommittee exists and that you've developed a plan. And I just want to take a minute to acknowledge that we set a date, right, by when this plan would be completed. And we're fulfilling that goal, right? Step one, we said we were going to do this. And so pleased that you've completed it on time. Doesn't always happen, right, in any type of local or state government work. And so is really to be applauded and acknowledged, the work that got us to this point. But a living document has to be, like you said, monitored and adjusted and understood in terms of its impact. And so, we've met basically we were meeting twice a month and then once a month, getting us to this point. I would suggest that we schedule every other month going forward, because a lot of this work is going to take, it wouldn't be every month there might not be developments, but every other month. And I would actually suggest that we start with September, just to not let time go by. I wouldn't want to wait all the way until October. So I'm thinking even a September, November type of cadence to get us started. And then, the month of December is a little bit shortened with the holidays. And so then we come back in January. But I think that type of ongoing check-ins and the ability to, like you said, just look at the plan. We're clear about what needs to be done, essentially season by season almost. And so we can kind of check in on what are those fall deliverables? What are we working on at the beginning of the school year? Are we putting those things in place right from the beginning of the year, and answering some questions, not unlike the one that you asked tonight about the school committee process, school committee involvement in negotiations. And so that is an example of how we bring that living document to life by working through those adjustments, understanding the progress. And again, I would suggest every other month. But another strength of this committee is that you take votes, you decide how to move forward. And so I am not in a position to be able to make a motion of this body, but I would suggest that you consider a vote to continue this dialogue on a bi-monthly basis.
Thank you.
Make a motion? Okay. So let's make a motion of the meetings with the commissioner and follow-ups that they should occur every other month.
Amendment to the motion is that we will recommend this
Recommend
for the full
this
committee.
for the full committee.
Yes.
That's right.
Second.
Mr. Sheehan seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So much.
So that gets added to the plan.
Yes. Yeah. So should there one addition to the plan besides revising and making sure that the budget calendar aligns? Okay. Any other discussion?
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Johnston, is there anything else that you would like to say before we adjourn?
Just again, continued gratitude and just appreciation for the work of this subcommittee and the full committee for being behind this as well. And we just look forward to seeing the vote that occurs tonight during school committee, and then hopefully being back together in September.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So I will take a motion to adjourn. Oh, thank you so much. I
Motion
forgot
to
about
approve the
that.
minutes.
I actually have a request with a minute. Can we
Okay.
hold off till the next meeting? There's just several corrections that I've noticed.
Sounds good.
Table the minutes.
Second.
So Mayor Garcia made the motion to table the minutes to the next meeting. Seconded by Mr. Sheehan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Passes unanimously. Okay. Now, may I take a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner Johnston and Lauren and Jennifer, who's not here, but please convey my thank you. This was a lot of work and we made it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.